Hi everyone. So anyway, I'm making another video today, partially based on some of the things that were going on over the last few days, and okay, I just wanted to actually go maybe just you know talk a little bit more about the impact or the effect that the narcissist or something has, whatever the narcissist and other toxic people, that they will have on your feelings, especially in the domain of resentment. Okay, um, I just want to talk about this, especially because there's a lot of talk recently about the Korean drama series, the Glory, the Glory. In Korean is the Glory, yeah. So the plot, I believe, is quite familiar to most of those people who actually follow Korean drama, and I know that some people find it pretty dark and foreboding because it's about a girl, a woman actually, who actually takes about 18 years to prepare and to plot her revenge against the high school bullies who who burnt her and left her scarred and not just emotionally but even physically, and also breaking her spirit. And I know that most people will wonder, what's the point of all this, but there's this one scene, as I remember, in that drama series where a doctor, a plastic surgeon who was actually in love with her, or at least was attracted to her, asked her to give up her plans for revenge, saying that you ruin her in the process, but she refuses, telling him that you know what, it sounds like you're very privileged because you come from a family of doctors and you're doing very well economically and things like that. And she just right in front of him later on, a while later, she said, I'm not looking for a prince, I'm looking for an executioner, someone who can join me in my sword dance. Okay, the sword dance is something in a traditional Korean dance. Yeah, it's one of the few dances that it has very medieval origins. So I'm not sure whether they still have that dance in Chinese culture, but in South Korean culture, considering that there were so many cultural exchanges between China and Korea back then, the sword dance, okay, other than fan dance, which is another thing which is also prevalent in Chinese culture. Okay, the sword dance involves women and sometimes even men dancing around with swords, revolving swords. So like in the case of the Chinese kung fu dramas, you have like the nunchaku, which is the revolving baton with a chain in in Bruce Lee movies. Um, yeah, that was what Bruce Lee movies made famous. You also have the sword dance, in which this series of different sword blades were being whistled around, with sometimes with chains connecting them in Korean dance. So that was a really really vivid metaphor, but we know that in this case, there's no room for forgiveness when her spirit was broken, because in the subsequent part of the scene, she strips down to her lingerie. And the actress Song Hye Kyo is pretty well known to be very famous in Korea, in South Korea, and internationally. People know her to be a very beautiful woman, and although she's 42, but she dieted specially for that particular program, the drama, because she said that she didn't want to enact the role of someone who's really pretty, as in sexy and physically attractive with her curves, but she wanted to portray the image of a woman who was pretty much emaciated, who tried to cover her her bodily scars from other people via dresses, because she felt ashamed, yeah, of her wounds. So but back to this idea of resentment. um considering that Dong has a lot of resentment and everything, I just want to just get it out there. Like, I had a friend who was looking at something that I posted and telling him about it. I just told him, look at this this particular bully by the name of Huang Junkai, whom was in my high school days. He bullied me not just by taunting. He not only did he push me physically, he did really really disgusting things such as slapping. Slapping, yes, slapping my face with glitter dust. It took me hours and hours to clean it out. Can you imagine the slap on the left side of the face? I still remember that, the left or the right side. That was the degree of his depravity as a bully. And he had a flying monkey, much like the character of Yeonjin in The Glory has a flying monkey who was a pastor's daughter. In this case, it was a pastor's son. You get the parallels? The pastor's son was helping him to bully me by constantly pushing me and on his instructions. So I mean, back then I was I must admit that I was much more religious then, and I believe that you just ignore these people. Eventually you just die out and things like that. The idea of the long suffering Christ, whatever. You win out with patience. But that I actually even had a friend, my classmate, who was a Methodist Christian. He talked to me and just told me, that all this thing about putting up with the suffering and hoping that they will overlook that, it's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. Yeah, you have to speak and say no, and let them know it loud and clear. And the thing is, it took one particular incident when that bully suddenly noticed that I was going to fight back. Or even my friends sitting around me were telling me, you can't do this anymore. You want it to stop, you have to fight back. Even if it means that you might get into something physical. And at that one point, that jackass, who's now the owner of a cafe bakery here in Singapore, from what I heard, I think it's the Fabulous Baker Boy. Although I'm not very sure. Okay, he was actually telling the pastor's son, let's just say I'll give him the letter L, telling him, push me. I said, don't you try doing that. And he just, that bully, what he did? He told that pastor's son, one more time, push him. And when he pushed me, I fought back. I gave the pastor's son a tight slap so hard that while he was standing on the stairs, he fell down and he hit his butt. Yeah. That angered the bully. It's like, no narcissistic bully wants to see his supply or the person that he's bullying fighting back. And that I remember that days, or even the day itself, or during the recess break, even the day after, there was another friend from it was the last year of my high school. It was like it's pre-university. It's called middle. Actually, it's in the American system, it's middle school, but here in Singapore it's called high school. So it was the equivalent of, I think, grade 10. Yeah, I remember that when I was having that intermission or the recess break, I was with some of my friends. And one particular friend from another class just came over and just told me, he was telling me, this Jinkai J, okay, let's just say J. He vowed to make your life a living hell, a burning hell for fighting back, because you fought back against him. I said, go ahead. I'm not going to be bullied anymore. And the funniest thing was this, that true to his nature as a narcissistic bully, that Jinkai, what he did? He, on one particular day, I don't know when, I didn't know it actually happened to me until some friends told me about it. He secretly walked behind me, and it looked like it wasn't like anything, but later on, but some friends told me what happened. The whole of my back of my uniform, because the uniform was white, was stained with what he had spat out from Cheetos. Yeah, he ate those, you know, those Cheetos, those snacks with the orange food coloring, and he spat it on the back of my fucking uniform. Okay, you know, at this point in time, I realized this is not gonna work out. I gotta really stop him. And you know, my friends, my classmates around me, those who were sitting, even people at the back, they saw it, and you know, I really thank God. You know, they stood up for me, on top of me, top speaking for myself, and they told the form teacher, who was our physics teacher, and just right after that, you know, I can say that, you know, my physics teacher was he wasn't always the best tempered as a teacher, but really God bless him, because you know, he got so angry when he saw that. And you know, unlike the glory where, you know, the teacher actually just kept quiet and even beat up the victim, that was what happened in the glory. That form teacher of mine actually commanded that bully immediately to stay behind for detention. um you know, the thing is that the bullying, the taunting, almost, I won't say that it actually got worse after that. I guess it takes a bit of disciplinary action and everything for all this to stop. But you know what? That bully didn't stop. He knew that he couldn't get me physically. So what did he do? He decided to go the other way. The smear campaign. He smeared me to that friend. Let's just I don't know his name right now. That friend, who was also his friend. I mean, the other friend knew that he was a bully, but just kept on, you know, like hanging around. But he wasn't like siding with anyone. But he just told me to be careful. And you know, some people are just like that. They love to stay in the middle, because you know what? As long as it doesn't concern me, it doesn't concern me. But he did warn me that friend anyway. So yeah, he was the one who was warned me that he would definitely, that person would bully would just make my life a living hell. So you know, but back to why I talk about this. Why did I talk about something that is like over, you know, 30 years ago? Yes, 30 years ago, around there. I mean, effectively, you know, that people don't really change. I don't think so. Maybe they do change. Who knows? But you know, I don't need an apology right now. But you know, when a friend of mine heard about this, he said, "Well, you have a lot of resentment." I said, "Why shouldn't I?" These people are just going on as if nothing had happened. And you know that I kind of think about it in the, you know, in the aftermath of that, and I started realizing, now I know why during the therapy I had you know, a fear of getting touching myself. I don't even, can you imagine? I don't even dare to touch myself. I'm scared, because I'm scared of it reigniting certain memories, certain flashbacks when I was being pushed or nudged. Yeah, I know that it sounds really crazy, and you know, you have that online meme, you know, that alien scene where, you know, that Sigourney Weaver who's shaved with her head has the, you know, the alien, the predator next to her, like, drooling and all this stuff. And then yeah, the online meme was used by one friend of mine, who's into New Age astrology, and that thing was, because she's a single mother of a few kids, I think 1 or 2 kids. She said, I mean, that meme was, when your toddler or your child is sick and wants to cuddle you. And guess what? I changed it. When your ex-narcissist wants to cuddle you. The alien and Sigourney Weaver. But it sounds exaggerated, but that was precisely how I felt with you know, with that last ex-narcissist. Not the bully, but the ex-narcissist 7 years ago. I realized that all these things, they have a beginning somewhere. And when you realize that, you realize, oh, you know, it's so liberating at the same time. While you realize these people, they are one demon in one form or another. They might change, you know, in physically, in appearance, the body. Now that the person who bullied me 30 years ago, I mean, he's barely wilting away. He's like probably, now he's, you know what, I'm like now still the person that I was in my 30s. Yeah, I'm still that person. I'm still that young person. They are all wilting away, slowly wilting. He might have all that money. I dare him to try. And I realized that, you know what, there's a lot of resentment But what's wrong with having all that resentment? I'm not holding on to using it to have revenge, because I don't care for these people. And that I was talking back with that psychologist back then, a few weeks back, and now she's probably going on holiday soon, from what she told me. So I'm gonna meet her actually sometime in early March. I remember when I was telling her about all my my resentment, and even before that, I remember also telling a counselor about my resentment. I had a lot of resentment, yes. And the strange thing is that all the counselors and even the psychologists, on none of the occasions did they even tell me to forgive anyone. The one counselor actually said something. I mean, as a social worker, she said, Kevin, if you have so much anger and resentment in you, but you will give up on your life, you will give up on your life over these people, then all this resentment is for nothing. Okay? So, deep down she was implying that resentment has a purpose. There's nothing wrong with having resentment, because this is our body, our brain, our emotions trying to help us to protect us. So and I think that with that psychologist, she's the second psychologist I'm seeing, because the first one is she left the center, she for another job in the same industry, and so she handed my case over to another one of her former, I mean then colleague, but now former colleague. And that the current one just told me, Kevin, I will never ask someone to forgive if he or she is not ready to forgive, because sometimes you do not know if this is actually the body or the brain trying to tell you, to protect you. It's the way that your body and your brain tries to protect you by making you remember it. Yeah, because if you don't remember it, you don't, I mean, if you forgive and forget, can you imagine, you wouldn't remember anything. And if you don't remember anything, can you imagine, yes, you might supposedly be happier with the sense that you don't even remember anything about what was done, but you wouldn't have learned your lesson, and neither would you have known how to protect yourself in the near future, if you should even the near or distant future, if you need to protect yourself against someone like that. And then I realized, today, I had a terrible, it wasn't terrible, thankfully, it was just a mild, it was a compression headache, whereas as I remember that the thing was like this whole thing, my front head and back hand was like squeezing. It's like I think it's something like a cluster or migraine headache. It's like where something is squeezing, the muscles are tightening. And I knew at that point, my resentment is causing me to feel a little bit of the anxiety from the flashback as well. But at the same time, I realized there's nothing wrong with it. This resentment, in French they call it ressentiment, okay, in French, which is the same in English, resentment, except that in French it has an extra I, and also extra S. But I kind of think of it as this way, even philosophers, like Friedrich Nietzsche, who is actually not a Christian, who's atheist. He was studying to be a pastor's pastor, having grown up in a religious family, but he left that faith eventually and became a pretty well-known philosopher, not just in Germany, and he studied even in English departments around the world. I just kind of realized this. If Nietzsche can write a book like all his aphorisms, including aphorisms on the worth of resentment, why should we demonize it? I mean, demonizing resentment is part of the job of some religions. And I mean, I don't want to offend anyone. This is a kind of your own personal choice what you believe in, and I might want to just let me preface that with a little bit more about my own religious beliefs. Y'all probably don't know that. I mean, because I'm not very open with that. I grew up in a very conservative, I would say not really religious family. It's family, a Chinese family, so so Taoism, Buddhism was the predominant practice. Predominantly practice faith, and my two sisters are still pretty much Taoist or Buddhist. Yeah, I converted to Christianity when I was pretty young, actually, when I was in my middle school, by virtue of being in a Catholic school. But as you all know, I was bullied anyway in a Catholic school, and it doesn't make sense when you think about it. I dreaded going to school on some days because I never knew if like I was going to be bullied. So strange. It's strange for as long as I could remember. When my mom was still so young then, and I was, my mom who's now in her 60s, when she was still so young, and yeah, in her 30s, 30s or yeah, in her 30s, while I was only in my teens. I just kind of realized this. I've been searching, even then, even as a Christian, I've been trying to search for that idea, for how to be a good person. But I realized that sometimes, to be a good person, to live a life that is good to other people, sometimes people might not actually be good back to you. Yeah. And I think that especially after my last experience with uh, narcissistic abuse with the last ex, I realized that some people constantly have a chip off their shoulder. I think that experience, with the whole pressure people gave me to, gaslight me and tell me about forgiveness and letting go and everything, it taught me something. Some people don't really actually care for you. They only care about what, image you can fit in with them, and how you can fit in with that image or the box of you being a good person or person who takes instructions. And then when I didn't, which was quite a long time ago, since I was in 2005, when I realized, what, I'm not going to be in any kind of a faith or organization or institution when I'm constantly hearing that we are elected by God, we're chosen by God, and then therefore because we are chosen by God, we are the elected ones. We can look down on others who are not. Yeah, that's a kind of privilege thing, and it's no different from narcissism as far as it concerns me. Yeah, I wasn't going to stand for that. And no one in my family is a Christian except me, and because of that, I left the church. Yeah, at least I left a church that was a Bible Presbyterian church back then, and I've been going around different churches, here and there, including a Korean church which I haven't been able to attend over the years because of work. But I really realized this. I don't think that God is interested in whether you say I'm a good person. He's more interested in whether you are really a good person by your actions. And we know that a lot of churches and denominations, whatever they form, wherever they fall on the spectrum of faith, they have narcissists. Yeah. So when I chose not to forgive, the ex-narcissist, that got me gaslighted and everything. So it doesn't matter anymore. They can judge me for all I care. But back to the whole thing about resentment. Resentment is actually good for you. Yeah. It becomes destructive when you actually break the law, hurt someone else, based on that. But you never know that resentment can be productive. It can actually make you grow as a person. It's that resentment, the anger, the desire to stop it, to stop the pain, to stop all that has been happening to you, that makes you decide that you have to break the cycle. Okay? So don't you ever say that, and don't you ever say that it's bad. Don't you ever believe what people say, that resentment is satanic, it's going to make you go to hell. No. You know who's going to go to hell? The narcissist. Every day, they are living hell. Yeah. No love. No love. Us, what about us? We have resentment because we know what's good. We know what's bad. We hate what's evil. Doesn't God hate evil? We hate evil. That's right. That's right. Resentment is good. Okay? So, anyway, that's it for now. I'm gonna make some other stuff, some videos eventually later on. I promise something about different emotion other than resentment. The other thing is agitation or unease. I'll talk about that later. Okay? So have a good one, everyone. Okay. Or I get ready for the next day tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.